Quick upload for you guys today. I just want to talk about something that I've been seeing a whole lot of in comment sections on the internet. And I want to stress the importance of us not making the UFC into an over officiated promotion. In the midst of all these different conversations about what should be done about eye pokes or the proper protocol for addressing fighters missing weight, I'm not saying to bring like Mario Yamasaki back to where it's like if he dies, he dies. But we shouldn't be endorsing potential decisions made to make it so that there is more ref intervention into UFC fights. In my opinion, that is not what we should be doing here. So like you guys, don't make the league soft. Whenever you're like in the comment sections like, oh, he should be losing a point immediately for eye pokes. My guy, these types of changes wouldn't make the sport better. In the 90s and 80s, you were able to like suplex people in the NBA, right? That organization benefited from more ref involvement. Flagrant fouls in that sport weren't even a thing until the year 1990. So before then, you could hit people with like closed fists, bro, like body uppercuts as they were driving to the hole. There was a rule passed in 2004 that banned something called hand checking, which was basically just grabbing onto the jersey of the guy that you were defending. And prohibiting this type of contact in basketball made it so that games were more high scoring and faster paced. The UFC is at a good point as far as like the pacing at which fights are conducted. The only issue is that sometimes fighters get poked in the eye. Sometimes they get kicked in the nuts. There is no issue with pacing in the UFC. Our product is fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with the UFC fights as they are right now. Whenever everything works the way that it's supposed to, there's no fouls committed. UFC fights are perfect. The ref is only present so nobody dies, nobody stalls the action, and nobody grabs the cage. Other than that, stay out of the action. And it should be this way. I do not share the same sentiments as some of you guys who think that the ref should be like actively involved in, oh, you poked his eye? I'm going to take a point away immediately. No warnings. And we'll talk about what people have suggested and what's actually being done in some organizations as far as like weight misses goes. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely insane. So let's first address eye pokes. Eye pokes are just one of those things. And whenever I say they're just one of those things, I meant that they're not being done on purpose. This is not a foul that people willfully commit. If I'm a guy who knows that half of my money is contingent on me winning a fight, why would I jeopardize half of my paycheck in purposefully committing a foul that makes it so my money isn't able to be accessed by me in the event of getting a no contest? I get my show money and then I go home and I fuck myself. Why would I do that? I completely fuck my money up by only giving myself the opportunity to win my show money and nothing else. Why would I do that on purpose? Why would any fighter on the UFC roster willfully commit this foul so that it ruins half of their earning potential? Just think for a second. And think about this too. Most kickboxers opt to use some variation of a long guard, or a Dracula guard as it's sometimes called. And this is to defend strikes, and they drill this in training camps and in sparring where they're using big gloves. At my MMA gym, whenever we spar, we use big gloves. And I'm letting you know right now, I'm posting like this under those big gloves. It's just your hands are curled while wearing them. So there's no offense in having your arms extended as you normally would like this. But it's a force of habit because I'm telling you, nobody posts like this. Whenever you are able to engage your fingers into the act of posting, most of the time it's like this straight out. But there's going to be some type of forward angle that makes it so, yes, there is a risk of poking somebody in the eye. Especially if they penetrate that layer of defense, which is your reach, and get in close, you're going to readjust your reach to try to create spacing between you and them. And the first point of contact that you're going to make, since a lot of people do lead with their heads whenever they throw boxing combinations, especially if it's a blitz, is you're going to try to correct it to around where their forehead is. And yes, you may end up poking them in the eye if you do that. It's just one of those things. Fighting behind your range is something that all good fighters do. And nobody posts with the bald fist. Instantly taking a point away, as I've seen a lot of people suggest that the UFC ref should do whenever they do see this offense be committed, or if they do actually have to stop the action because of an eye poke, it's going to ruin the sport, dude. It's going to make our sport so damn soft, angel soft, Charmin ultra soft. Multiple warnings as it's in place right now, that's a better system. Half of the fighter's money is at stake. If there's like a nut shot or there's an eye poke and they're like, close your hands, and then you get another eye poke within like 15 seconds of that warning, then yes, maybe look into taking a point away from the fighter on the basis of how severe the eye poke is. Otherwise, it's an accident. Things happen. Fighting is what you would call a controlled, uncontrolled environment. The ref and the rules exist to provide a framework for this otherwise very uncontrolled thing taking place in a confined octagon space. You're not going to be able to control everything. Having trained myself, this happens, dude. Like, quite often it happens. And saying that people are committing this foul on purpose is just like saying that people are purposely kicking their opponents in the gonads whenever they're switch stance and trying to throw inside low kicks. No, it just happens. It's one of those things. The next thing that we're going to be discussing is weight misses. Forfeiting 20 to 30% of your earnings is sufficient. In the instance of a fighter like Kelvin Gastelum, who had been missing weight a lot prior to this, Dustin Stoltzfus was still willing to take the fight with Kelvin Gastelum, but he demanded that he forked over 35% of his purse, which I think is more than fair, giving Kelvin Gastelum a weight advantage over you. And it's not like that guy sucks, he's just heavy. But something that I think is ridiculous is how fans advocate for increased fighter pay and then want 50% of the pay docked from fighters whenever they miss weight. Sometimes it is an error on the scales, right? Sometimes it is just bad math. They do kilogram weigh-ins and then it gets converted to pounds. And oh, look, you're half of a pound over at this point. That's what people were coping and saying about Charles Oliveira whenever he was stripped on the scales in his fight against Justin Gaethje, right? And he gave up some money in that fight that he did actually win, but not all of it. People are being so unfair towards these fighters whenever, like, we don't even know. I mean, we get like a pretty good description of what that entails, making weight, but we don't know what that's like unless we've actually done it, and I've never cut weight before. It's part of the job, yes, and don't sign on to contracts to make weight at a weight class that you know you're not going to be able to show up on weight for. But I mean, things happen, bro. We're humans, we're prone to human error. That should not mean that you walk away with pennies because you made a mistake. Ultimately, we would much rather just see the fight happen. And that's the reason why taking a point away from a fighter who comes in heavy, like out of the total scorecard, if it's out of 30 points, making it so that the max that they can get is 29, that's stupid, because what we're going to see is fighters just not fight. If I miss weight and the consequence of that is going to be me getting to be able to achieve a maximum of 29 points on any set of 3 scorecards, I'm just not going to fight. We're not doing this. So what you're going to see is like one fighter cutting weight for no reason because they have no opponent or potential to make their show money, and then just holes in cards where there is a weight miss, even if it's by half of a pound. I appreciate when catch weights are possible too. I'd much rather have seen a fight like Aljamain Sterling versus Brian Ortega than for it to have just not have happened, you know? And most of the time whenever there is a weight miss, on very few occasions is it beneficial to the guy who actually did miss weight. It happens, but it's not all the time. More often is it a botched weight cut that results in them having a really bad performance, the guy who did miss weight, and they end up just losing anyways. But we still get the fight. And that's really what's important to fans of the UFC, is that we get to watch UFC fights. So I don't know, man. You guys will need to let me know in the comment section what you guys think about these takes that I have here. I just think that over-officiating the UFC is the exact way that we're going to turn this into the NFL, where fighters are going to be getting docked $20,000 because they like celebrated too hard after getting to knockout victories in the cage. Keep them refs out of this sport. We do not need those guys closely supervising all the happenings inside of the cage. They're literally there to make sure that nobody dies. Other than that, let them boys fight. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Thank you for making it to this point in the video. If you did, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm going to catch you fellas in the next one. Peace out.